Hello, it is Sara Waggle, astrologer and leadership coach here for Moon Astrology Tarot, this time for the moon in Sagittarius. This is July late in the day on the 16th through early on the 19th. So we'll say the 17th through the 19th. And we are just coming off some intense energy. And I wish we got a break, but we kind of don't. Because this is Sagittarius moon. Sagittarius is a fire sign. We now have Mercury in Leo, Venus in Leo. Mercury is also, I don't think I mentioned this, but he's in his pre-retrograde shadow. He'll go retrograde on August 5th. So if you are somebody who loves a Mercury retrograde, keep that date in mind. But therefore, he's going to be making aspects to Chiron and Aries, and he'll be building up to a square to Uranus and Taurus. And when we have a planet in retrograde making aspects to other planets and points, there it's going to be a repeated thing, right? Okay, so if Mercury trines Chiron, and eventually, I think it's kind of like right after this moon cycle, but I'm saying it now because we might be feeling the energy now. But squaring Uranus and Taurus, he's gonna go to 3 degrees Virgo and then retrograde back. So he'll cross this path again of Uranus and Chiron. And then when he stations direct, he'll pass Chiron and Uranus again. So that's why these are important, because as he's in shadow and trines Chiron and Aries, squares Uranus and Taurus, pay attention to what comes up around this day, during this moon, and during and around the full moon in Capricorn coming up. Because those things might be repeated when Mercury stations retrograde in August and then stations direct. I want to say the end of August. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, these things come up repeatedly. So as he's going forward now, something might dig up that needs to be addressed, communicated about. A wound needs to be communicated about. Something may be upsetting in someone's language because of the upcoming square to Uranus. And then when he retrogrades in August, those things may come up again. And then as he stations direct later on in August into September, those things will be resolved. So that's the beauty of Mercury retrograde. I know we hate on it a lot, but really Mercury is here to just teach us how to communicate or think better or have a better mindset, or whatever. Otherwise, we will, of course, this moon will square Saturn, now in retrograde, Neptune now in retrograde, and we're building up to that second full moon in Capricorn. And, you know, Sagittarius is Jupiterian, so it's all about expansion and whatnot. But I feel like with this one, it's more like it could be a little, I want to say angrier than normal, because I feel like a lot got stirred up between the last couple of moon cycles, particularly the moon in Libra and the moon in Scorpio, because we had Venus enter Leo opposed Pluto. We had the Mars-Uranus conjunction with the moon in Scorpio. And so now some shit's kind of stirred up, right? Some shit's kind of stirred up. The pot's kind of getting a little, the rolling boil is starting to happen if it hasn't already. And now we're heading to, in just a couple of days, a full moon in Capricorn. And so I'll talk more about that. I'm trying not to talk too much about it, but I feel like it's all kind of connected at this point. And it does kind of get that way sometimes with the astrology. So I would say, buckle up, but also maybe even enjoy a Sagittarius tends to be a bit more social. So it could be a happier stretch of time. And or just, it's certainly a time to reflect on what could be coming next, but also know that there's going to be a big release coming with that full moon. So lots to think about, lots to kind of take on. I don't know, trying to feel into, Mercury's going to trine Chiron, which is harmonious. However, because we're in between a bunch of really intense transits, it's almost like maybe some things need to be said, conversations need to be had, um, phone calls maybe need to be made. Uh, and also, like Saturn, or excuse me, Sagittarius being about where you're going, because it's the upwards pointing arrow. Again, it's back to that, like, where is your vision taking you? And not everybody and everything, including mindset, including your communication style, can go with you. How about this? Like sarcasm. I am not a huge fan of sarcasm. I know a few people who are not a huge fan of sarcasm because unfortunately sarcasm can be very hurtful to people who are more sensitive or empathic. And so it's like, maybe I remember when I was going through a lot of intense transformation work and a lot of mental clearing work, I couldn't be around people who were sarcastic. I literally couldn't. I was too vulnerable. I was too exposed to be around sarcasm because my mental system didn't hear that it was a joke. They just heard that somebody made a comment about me. And while I'm in this vulnerable state, it's not landing like it's funny, right? And I sometimes really don't think sarcasm's funny. I think sarcasm is an excuse to say something shitty to somebody, but then laugh it off like it's a joke, but it's not a joke. And I think this might be very important right now to say this because with Leo and Aries both being fire signs, and we have Mercury moving through it, Venus moving through it, and then the sun moving through it. I think this is really an opportunity to see what your language is about. What do you really mean when you say that? Do you actually mean to jab that person and not recover it by saying it's a joke because you really mean it? You really think that low of that person? Because if you thought highly of that person, maybe you'd say something more encouraging. And I think it's a complete cop out when people say, I'm just sarcastic, it's my nature. No, because your words hold that much power. So I think that's something to think about as we have this Mercury in shadow headed to a retrograde, is how powerful your words are and how your words may trigger wounds or emotional upheaval in another person, even if you think it's funny. To them, it's not. So I think that's something to really think about as we move through this time and space. I definitely am somebody who has been at times very sensitive to sarcasm, and I've gotten to the point now where I can consider the source and not give a crap about what people say about me because whatever, they just don't want to deal with their own shit. But I definitely think it's something to be conscientious of when we are thinking about our friends or our family and what we really are saying to them, but then laughing it off like it's a joke. Well, but if it's really a joke, can you say something encouraging or empowering or, something complimentary to, I don't know, ease that, or I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is really a good opportunity with this Mercury retrograde or this upcoming Mercury retrograde. But, as Mercury moves through its shadow with this moon in Sag, heading to a very potentially cathartic full moon in Capricorn, I think it's a good opportunity for us to really kind of re-examine what we consider our nature, air quotes, giant air quotes. I can't control my words because it's just my nature. I can't stop being funny or sarcastic because it's just my nature. I call bullshit. Your words are powerful. Your words mean something. Words are spells. You spell words. Words are spells. Think about that as your. Anyway, I'm kind of glad that came up. I think that was something really important that we all need to like talk about and think about. Queen of Starships upright, Queen of Cups upright in traditional tarot. This is Nurse Ogawa. I think this is really acknowledging your own emotional well-being and acknowledging the work that you've done on your emotional well-being, but also like seeing how you put that work out into the world. Like if you've done all this work on yourself, do you really want to go? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make it all negative, but I feel like this Queen of Cups, it's like, this is a water, cups is water. We're finishing up in a water sign with a pretty powerful bang, or a pretty powerful waterfall or crashing wave, however you'd like to, think about that. Maybe it's a power wash, but it's all about how you control the power wash, right? If you've ever, I haven't dealt with a power washer, but I mean, think about a fire hose and how many people it takes to control a fire hose. Um, and I think this could be a very fire hose of emotion type of ending to this Cancer season. As it gets closer, we've got a couple more days here, but I think this is a good reminder to kind of really see within yourself where you can control or um, responsibly express your emotions. There's a time and a place, right? There's a time and a place to express your emotions, to talk about your emotions. The family barbecue is probably not the place to talk about it, but maybe it is. Maybe it involves the whole family, but it also could be like you got to hold it together until you've got the one or two people involved, to really dive into whatever's coming up for you. So this is emotional responsibility. It's just, knowing when is the right time and the right place to express your emotions, or acknowledging that, hey, you know what? I don't blow up anymore at the family function. I'm able to hold it in until I get home, or, because it's like family barbecue season and whatnot. Let's see what's up with self-care. We're almost done with this deck. What are we gonna do for Leo season? What deck? I don't know. I have to think about that. I haven't bought any new decks this month. So guess it's gonna be a surprise to me too. I have an idea. Rest. I mean, I feel like this whole Cancer season's been very restful and introspective. I know it hasn't been for everyone, but it's kind of been like a pullback and, maybe a bit more self-isolating than normal. I know a lot of people have been sick, so there's been that, but I think, choosing to rest, choosing to read a book, choosing to be socially disconnected a bit, to really take in what's actually unfolding and transpiring in your life and how it's moving forward, but really resting. And also there's sometimes where there's a void and it's an opportunity to rest before the next thing comes into play. And so there could be that going on for some folks too. So that's what I have for this moon and Sag. Of course, links below for the Cancer season, sun and rising signs. That does include sun and rising signs for the second Capricorn full moon. So you probably want to check that out. You can, of course, see the practical tools for 2024, the video that I did earlier this year. I think most of that still applies. I should really go back and rewatch it and make sure before we head into the thick of retrogrades season. And then you can, of course, buy me a coffee. You can book a reading with me and whatnot. So all of that stuff is below. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you on the next video.